Tesla turbine gets great torque, especially at low RPMs. That's when it gets the most torque.
Really?
Yes, the torque is proportional to the difference in the fluid speed and the disk speed. So when the disk is the slowest, the fluid speed is moving the fastest relative to the disk. Torque is the most.
Charlie stood beside the turbine he had spent years shaping, refining, and adjusting. Earlier, he had increased the voltage too much, causing the system to shut down completely and forcing him to let everything cool before restarting. Now the gauges rested smoothly at safe levels, the airflow was steady, and the spinning unit was ready for another demonstration. The machine looked unusual because it did not resemble a traditional turbine. Most turbines depended on blades, carefully angled and placed to collect energy from steam or gas. This machine had none of that. It used a stack of thin discs positioned very close together. Anyone seeing it for the first time usually wondered how such a system could work, yet Charlie had built it exactly because it challenged the usual assumptions about turbines. Many people only knew the modern versions of turbines, so Charlie often explained the origins. The earliest turbine was remarkably simple, a small sphere filled with water. When heated, steam escaped through two pipes and created a reactive force that made the sphere spin. This early device demonstrated how moving fluid could create motion without complex parts. It did not produce usable power, but it revealed the principle that later designs built upon. Over time, engineers replaced the basic structure with more complex reaction turbines. These machines used multiple rows of blades so steam could pass from one stage to another while giving up energy gradually. The system was smooth and predictable. Reaction turbines became essential in large power plants because they could run continuously and convert steam into rotational energy with high efficiency. Impulse turbines followed a different principle. Instead of a slow, controlled extraction of energy, they used nozzles that shot steam at extremely high speed. The jet struck curved blades and forced the turbine to rotate. The change in direction of the steam created the force. Impulse turbines were strong and simple to maintain. They operated well where high-speed fluid was available. Reaction and impulse turbines became the common tools for energy production. Engineers refined them for many decades by altering blade geometry, adjusting temperature, and optimizing flow paths. Because of these improvements, most of the world assumed that a turbine required blades to function. Tesla challenged this idea. His turbine design from 1913 did not use blades at all. Instead, it used smooth discs stacked in a tight pattern. The design looked too simple to many people. They could not understand how steam would exert force without having blades to hit. Tesla believed fluid motion involved more than obvious impacts. He understood that fluids exhibited a subtle form of adhesion. When a fluid moved across a surface, a thin layer of the fluid clung to the material and dragged it. Engineers usually ignored this small effect, but Tesla believed it was enough to build a turbine around. Charlie often demonstrated the concept with everyday examples. Honey poured over a cylinder clung to the surface and dragged the cylinder as it fell. Honey was thick, so the effect was easy to observe. Air also exhibited adhesion, although much weaker. When a stream of compressed air flowed over an object, a thin layer stuck and transferred motion. The principle remained the same whether the fluid was honey, water, steam, or air. This adhesion, combined with viscosity and boundary layer behavior, allowed a turbine with smooth discs to extract energy in a way different from traditional designs. Tesla's turbine used these properties. When steam entered at the outer edge of the disc stack, it spiraled inward due to the shape of the housing. As it moved toward the center, the fluid clung to the disc surfaces and transferred energy. The discs rotated because the fluid dragged them along. The fluid's motion remained smooth and caused minimal turbulence because the system lacked abrupt edges. This smooth flow created efficiency advantages. Because there were no blades, the turbine avoided typical blade damage issues. Despite its strengths, Tesla's turbine did not gain acceptance. Engineers evaluated it using the same standards they used for bladed turbines. They measured torque at high speed and found it low. Based on that, they rejected the design. Tesla explained that the turbine produced its strongest torque at low speed when the difference between fluid velocity and disk velocity was large. As the disks accelerated, the difference decreased, and torque naturally fell. Engineers did not test it in the working range Tesla intended, and concluded incorrectly that the design was impractical. Charlie believed this misunderstanding needed correction. He spent years building, testing, and refining his own version. He realized Tesla's turbine offered advantages beyond torque curves. Now first, like always, be sure to hit the like button down below. It helps us out tremendously with the reach of this video. Thank you. One key advantage was durability. Traditional turbines suffered when exposed to steam containing minerals, droplets, or other solid particles. Blades eroded, warped, or cracked under repeated impacts. Tesla's turbine lacked blade edges, so the steam moved smoothly across the disks. This made it far more capable of handling geothermal steam, or other unfiltered sources of heat energy. Charlie constructed his turbine using aluminum discs. Aluminum was light, corrosion-resistant, and easy to shape. Each disc was stamped with small dimples that acted as spacers, ensuring the correct distance between discs without the need for bolts or separate components. Because the discs were not tightly fixed, they could expand and contract evenly under temperature changes. This flexibility reduced stress and extended turbine life. Inside the cylindrical housing, Charlie placed 75 discs. The spacing allowed steam or air to travel between them in a controlled path. To convert the rotational energy into electricity, he attached brushless motors taken from radio-controlled vehicles. These motors could function as generators when turned quickly. The turbine's output connected directly to them. During tests, Charlie used compressed air at 25 psi. The discs began to rotate, at first slowly, and then with increasing speed. As the rotational velocity climbed, the stack of discs blurred into a nearly transparent ring. Charlie connected 2 lamps, each consuming 600 watts. The turbine powered both lamps successfully, producing around 1200 watts with modest pressure. The consistent performance encouraged Charlie to form a company dedicated to building these turbines. He saw the design as a micro steam power plant that could be kept in a garage or workshop. People could use it as a backup system during outages by heating water, generating steam, and feeding it into the turbine. It required no complex tools, no exotic materials, and relatively little maintenance. Charlie believed this approach could help people in remote or rural locations who needed dependable and simple power sources. Charlie's respect for Tesla motivated him throughout the project. Tesla had once described this turbine as a design he valued highly. Whether the exact statement was historically perfect did not matter to Charlie. What mattered was that the idea had potential. Charlie believed he had brought a forgotten concept into the present. He considered it important to continue improving the design and exploring new uses for it. After finishing the test, Charlie shut down the airflow and let the turbine slow. He observed the discs gradually lose speed until they reached a complete stop. The housing retained some warmth from the earlier motion. Charlie often ended his work sessions with the same humorous remark about tomatoes being unpleasant, which he repeated simply out of habit. He organized his tools and prepared the space for the next round of adjustments. When the workshop became quiet, he thought about the wide range of applications the turbine might have if developed further. He imagined systems where waste heat from machinery could be used to drive the discs and generate electricity. He considered farming operations that needed simple backup power sources. He thought about areas with limited access to clean fuel, but abundant geothermal heat. He wondered about combining the turbine with solar concentrators that heated water directly. He explored the possibility of using low-pressure steam sources, often ignored by conventional turbines. Each idea expanded the range of uses the disc-based turbine could support. Charlie believed that exploring these possibilities would help demonstrate the benefits of design in modern situations. He cleaned the surface of the turbine housing and made notes about airflow measurements, disc spacing, and temperature changes during operation. He updated his plans to investigate new disk materials and different spacing configurations. He believed the turbine could evolve into an even more capable system. With the workshop reorganized and his notes complete, Charlie turned off the last light and left the space ready for the next round of development.